Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show, and I have a very special episode for you today. I am here with Madison. Madison, say hi.
Hi.
Madison is returning to the show after too long an absence. Madison and I talked about Raina Telgemeier's Smile back in 2018. Yeah, 2018. That was episode 146. And Madison is the one who introduced me to Raina Telgemeier's work. I think, remind me, Madison, did you discover that book through school? You checked it out at the library or something?
I think so. I think so. I don't know which one it was, though, because there was a bunch of different books.
But something like that, because you were reading Babysitter's Club about the same time.
I was reading that and drama.
Yeah. Right. Well, right. But I mean, drama is one of her other books. So, yeah. But you didn't start with Smile, right? That's right. Because you started with drama, I think, and then maybe Smile, and then Sisters, or maybe it was drama, Sisters, and then Smile.
That's how I did it.
Okay. But we are here to talk about Raina Telgemeier's Sisters book, which is the second book. So we've already talked about Smile, which is her first one that she did, and then Sisters, and then drama is the third one, right?
Well, it was Smile, and then Drama, and then Sisters. But Drama is about a different character.
Drama was the second one?
Yeah, but it wasn't about her.
Oh.
It was about a totally different person.
Oh, okay.
Like Ghost. But,
all right. Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't know anything about Raina Telgemeier's work. So that's why Madison is here to help walk me through this. So after we talked about Smile 2 years ago, and as I was telling Madison right before I pushed the record button, I think that we are recording like almost 2 years to the day from the last time that we talked about Smile. So that's kind of, I don't like math, but I like numbers. And so that kind of stuff always, I find it fascinating. You didn't know that about me?
No. I thought you liked math.
No, I don't like math at all. I appreciate math. Math is very necessary in our life, but I do not like to do math. I certainly don't like to have to perform any kind of math. So, but I like numbers. I like how numbers play into our lives, or we recognize patterns through numbers, or coincidences like this, where, like I said, it's probably almost around 2 years to the day that we are recording the other Raina Telgemeier, our discussion about the other Telgemeier book, Sisters here. So obviously it's by Raina Telgemeier. It is also, I have to go to my notes, colors by Braden Lamb, who was also the colorist for Ghosts and Guts. And so Smile had a different colorist, as I recall.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Braden has also done colors for some Babysitter's Club books. I think not just for Telgemeier's Babysitter's Club books, because there's been other people who have been doing those too. And lettering by John Green in this book. So this was published in 2014 by Graphics, which is an imprint of Scholastic. They refer to it as a fictionalized memoir. Do you know what that phrase means?
Kind of.
How would you explain that to someone?
I don't know. We were doing memoir stuff in school, but where we would just write down a little note about our life, and then that's it. That's it's something about your life, and that, I don't know. I don't know where I was going.
Well, that's pretty good. I think a pretty good summation of what a memoir is. It's just telling stories about your life.
Yeah.
Now, memoirs can be true, or at least true from the perspective of the person who's telling the story. It may not be capital T truth, but that really doesn't matter. So they add on a fictionalized memoir, otherwise known as I'm used to the term creative nonfiction, which is what this is to me. It's the same thing to me, and all that means is that you are telling stories that are based on real events in your life, but maybe you have compressed some time, or Or maybe the experience that you're conveying is that it involved two people, but in the story that you're telling, you've changed it to just one person to make it simpler. So that's what's going on here. So I think anyway. So Raina Telgemeier is telling the events of this one trip that her and her family took to Colorado to go to a family reunion, and what happened on the way there, what happened on the way back, but also there's a bunch of flashbacks so that we get some background that has to do with the main story, the trip. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure she has changed some things to make the story better, because it's kind of like, have you ever tried to explain a dream you've had? And what you remember of the dream and the way that you're trying to convey it to someone as you're telling it, it's not the same thing. It's really hard to tell someone that dream.
No, because I don't dream.
Oh, you don't. Yes, you don't. You do dream. You just don't remember them.
Well, it's just black.
Really?
Yeah, that's all I see.
Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
That's all I see. Every once in a while, I will have some dream, or I will just have nightmares.
Well, then,
so, I don't know.
If you have nightmares, then you dream. That's a dream. That's just a bad dream.
Well, whatever.
So the only dreams that you remember are nightmares?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Madison, I'm so sorry. You don't have happy dreams?
No, not that I remember.
Huh. Well, that's this is a side issue, but wow, that's interesting. Okay, well, anyway, I've had that experience where I'm trying to convey something that I've, like in my dream experience. And this is probably a bad analogy because dreams are notoriously hard to retell to someone verbally. But I think for anyone who's tried to do that, I think they understand where I'm going with this. But anyway, so a little bit more about the book before we get into this. We'll talk about it. So we'll talk about the book and give our impressions. And Madison has a bunch of questions and observations that we'll go over, just like we did last time with Smile. So if people are just now joining the show and you've not gone back and listened to episode 146 and Madison and my discussion of Smile, you should go do that, because that helps inform what we read here in Sisters. Mm-hmm. It's a sequel, essentially, to what we had before. It's not really a sequel in the sense of these events happen after that. I mean, they do, but it's not like a movie sequel where things are progressing. This is just both Smile and Sisters are snapshots in time in the life of Raina Telgemeier and her family. So, okay, so like I said, this book was published in 2014. In 2015, a year later, Telgemeier won an Eisner Award, which at the time of this recording, the 2020 Eisner Awards were just announced last weekend. And I watched that through the Comic-Con at Home video. So when you guys were, I don't know what you were watching.
I don't either.
That night, but I sat in my chair with you in the same room with you guys. But really what I was doing was watching the video of the Eisner Awards on mute.
Yeah,
you saw me looking down the whole time?
Yeah, and at one point when I was down here, or you were up there, I don't remember, but you were talking about how this person should win and like all this stuff. I heard that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't agree with all of the Eisner picks, but it's whoever won for whatever thing I was talking about. I don't remember which one, but I know which one. It was Colleen Duran for Snow Glass Apples. Now, she did win one of the awards that she was nominated for, but she was nominated for another one that she should have won. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about Snow Glass Apples.
I don't even know what that is.
I've showed it to you. You may not remember. After we're done, Madison, I'll show it to you. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. You should read it. I think it's appropriate for you to read.
You think?
Yes. Unlike the other thing we were talking about earlier. Anyway, so she won an Eisner Award for Sisters in 2015 for Best Writer/Artist. Telgemeier, again, going back to the 2020 Eisners, she won for, I think, Best Kids Publication.
That's what you said.
For Guts, yeah. She also, oh yeah, I have it here in my notes. Best publication for kids. But Sisters was also named to the Young Adult Library Services Association's 2015 shortlist of great graphic novels for teens, and a 2015 Association for Library Service to Children notable children's book for middle readers. So I don't know if you know this, and I can't remember if we talked about this last time, Madison, but Raina Telgemeier is one of the most commercially successful graphic artists. Comic book creator. She is one of the most successful. She sold a bajillion books. And her books probably sell more than most comic books from DC and Marvel.
Really?
Yeah. That's how your fascination with Telgemeier's work and other books in like the middle school, high school, teenage graphic novel arena, that collection of creators like Telgemeier, they sell more books than DC and Marvel. If you're comparing individual titles. So it's very successful. DC and Marvel have tried over the years to get into that market. I think DC's had a better go of it than Marvel, but they still haven't cracked the formula that Raina and others have somehow discovered and utilized. So anyway, all that's to say is that she does good work. I mean, you would agree, right? Because you have all of her books.
Yeah. The last babysitter book was done by someone else because there's 5 and she did 4 of them. And then the last one I have is done by a different person. So I don't. But other than that, I have everything that she's done, like all the books. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you like them. So yeah, we keep buying them. And the nice thing about it is that because you read them, I read them. And I have discovered a new appreciation for something that I would not have normally have picked up. Because these books are not marketed to me. They're marketed to you and others like you, your age group. So, I'm missing out by ignoring that part of the market.
Yeah, you miss out on a lot of stuff. And almost everything that I stop to look at or I get, you say that you would never look at that, and it's like really cool stuff. And so, yeah,
exactly.
I like it.
Exactly. Which, all that means is that older comic readers like myself need to be a lot more open-minded and open to new experiences like these kinds of books. Because while I read Sisters long ago, after you got it, whenever it was, years ago, in preparation for this discussion, I read it about a week ago, I think. And I sat there you were in the living room playing on your tablet or something while I was reading this. And I was remember I was laughing and I was giggling and talking to you about some of the things that I was reading. And so even though I've already read it and like I said, it's not marketed for me or to me, I still have an appreciation for it. And there's a connection there because I was that age once. I did go on road trips with my family. I do have a brother and had a sister that I can relate to the experiences that Telgemeier is showing us. So a lot of the things that she is showing us, like I said, and conveying are universal for those of us who have siblings. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a sister specifically, if you have a brother or, some sort of brother/sister relationship with somebody who's not family, it's, you can relate to those things. So, Madison has an interesting family dynamic, that we'll talk a little bit about. Being a child of basically 2 homes. And so you have this experience of having an older sister here in our home, but then in the other home, you are one of many. So you're kind of the middle sister there, right? Yeah. So maybe we'll get into some of that stuff. So when we're talking through the book here. Okay. So that's it for kind of like the background of the book and the awards and whatnot. And we're probably just going to meander through the book as we talk about it. But as things come up, I often go off on a tangents. But okay, so Madison, I would like you to read the back of the first paragraph only of this. So I'm gonna read the opening here, and then you can read the rest of this. So on the back of the book, it says 3 weeks, 2 sisters, 1 car, a true story.
I like that.
Yeah, and then you read the first paragraph.
Oh, that's a big paragraph. Okay. Raina can't wait to be a big sister, but once Amara is born, things aren't quite how she expected them to be. Amara is cute, but she's also a cranky, grouchy baby and mostly prefers to play by herself. Their relationship doesn't improve much over the years, but when a baby brother enters the picture, and later when something doesn't seem right between their parents, they realize they must figure out how to get along. They are sisters after all.
Very good. Okay, so why did you want to read this book? Do you recall?
Well, I remember because I don't like reading chapter books and those kind of books.
You mean non-graphic?
Yes.
Novel type books.
I like books that have pictures and if a chapter book has some pictures in it, then I would read it, and if it sounds interesting. But I like reading more kind of books with pictures in it, and because it just helps me see what's going on. And so, because I don't like to imagine that stuff, I just want to see what it's like. And so that's why I grabbed that, because it was in a section with other kind of graphic novel stuff, and it just looked interesting. Also, it had an emoji on it.
Right. So why don't you describe the cover of the book?
Oh, well, the cover of the book. Oh, yeah. Well, it has the 2 emojis.
What are the emojis?
A grumpy emoji and a smiling emoji with headphones and braces.
Exactly. Okay. Well, and the grumpy emoji is also got blushed cheeks and staring at the other emoji. So this is Amara on the right. This is the grumpy emoji, right? Mm-hmm. And staring at the smiling Raina emoji. So yeah,
you can tell that it's her by the braces and the headphones.
Yeah, exactly. So why do you like this book?
Well, I like it because it's about your siblings, and it's a lot like the way siblings are and how me and my siblings are. And so I just like it because it's really funny, and it's I can relate to it.
So what do you mean by that? Why do you relate to it? And what's in the book that reminds you of your life and your siblings?
Well, all the fighting and and
surely not. You guys don't fight. Come on.
Yeah, okay. And the art, drawing and stuff. It's one thing.
You mean the fact that Raina and Amara are artists? They like to draw?
Yeah.
Well, I know you like to draw.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else in the other family, the other house that like to do that, like you do?
Not as much as me, but they still like to draw and do that and do arts and crafts. And so it's something that we all do together sometimes. There's that, and then since I am a middle child, I can relate to both the Raina and Amara, because when you're the middle child, you get both sides. You get to be the older sister, but also the younger sister. Mm-hmm. So you get.
So it's almost like you are Raina and Amara in this book, mm-hmm. And so do you? Okay, let me ask you this: is there one sister that you identify with more than the other?
Mm, I don't know. I don't think so because you get both sides. I'm used to being a younger sister more, but I'm still I'm used to being the younger sister, and I'm kind of like Raina. I like to do art, I like to listen to music and do all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also like Amara. I'm always bugging everyone, and I'm fighting with my siblings all the time. And also,
Yeah, but that's not a
That's
a
what she
middle
does.
child thing. That's
what she does, though.
That's a sibling thing.
Yeah, well, whatever. But when you're a middle child, you get to be the older sister of the younger children and be like annoyed with them. You're also annoyed with the older siblings because you're annoyed with everyone. But when you're an older sister, it's like hard to like get the younger ones to listen to you. But when you're a younger sibling, it's easier to get along with people sometimes, most of the time. But when you're an older sibling, you're always trying to tell the other younger ones what to do and trying to get them to do what you want. And younger siblings just don't care. They're like, don't tell me what to do or else I'm going to fight you.
Well, I can tell you this from my experience. I am the oldest child of three. My younger brother is the middle child, and my sister was the youngest. And your description of the older child, that is very spot on. At least from my experience, I was always trying to tell my brother, especially, what to do, when to do. Because my I don't know how much of my history you know. My parents divorced when I was younger than you are now. And there was, for about a year, it was just my mom and the three of us, the three kids. And so I had to help out around the house while my mom was working 3 jobs to pay the bills.
That's a lot.
And to put food on the table and do all that stuff. So I kind of acted like, not, quote unquote, the dad, because I had to. My mom needed me to make sure that my brother wasn't, getting into stuff he wasn't supposed to get into, and getting his homework done and doing his chores and all that kind of stuff. So I have no experience whatsoever in the younger sibling aspect that you were describing. So I find that fascinating, the way you're describing that they just, it's easier for them to get along with others.
When you're a younger sibling, you get how the other younger siblings feel. And when you're being bossed around all the time, it's like you don't care. You don't really want to listen to them. And you just want to do your own thing and hang out with your friends, or like hang out and play or do whatever. But it's easier for them to like, if you're an older sibling, I feel like you're just trying to boss everyone around all the time. And when you're like hanging out with people, you kind of get used to bossing people around. So you kind of keep doing that. And with younger siblings, we're used to being bossed around. So we kind of just do whatever. We don't really boss each other around. We don't care. We're just...
Well, so let's talk about what's going on in the book, though, in relation to that. So, just as a bit of background, so, and you mentioned this in the summary in the back of the book. There's actually a very cute scene, a flashback scene with Raina as a younger child, who suddenly, for some reason, gets it in her head that she needs a sister so that she can have someone to play with. Mm-hmm. And so she spends a certain amount of time, and they do this. Raina does this comically over the course of several panels, to showing her younger self, constantly reminding her parents, "I need a sister. I need a sister. I need a sister."
Yeah, and she told Santa she wanted a sister.
Oh, that's right, she did. Yes, and so eventually that comes to pass. Maybe she has some magical powers that she didn't realize that she had. Who knows? But she gets a sister. And things don't quite go as she had hoped, right? Mm-hmm. Because as the book told us, Amara is kind of I took it to mean when she was a baby, she was a bit colicky. She was always crying.
Babies are boring.
Okay.
That's what she says.
She said that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that.
No.
Okay.
Well, they can be.
Yeah,
But
whatever.
they're always sleeping and crying.
When you become a parent, that totally changes. Anyway, so Amara isn't the ideal sister that Raina wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as time goes on and Amara gets older, they do share, or Amara discovers that she enjoys drawing like Raina does, but she takes a different approach to it. And I'll come back to that, I think. But I wanted to just kind of give some background in terms of what's actually going on in Sisters. So do you feel like what you are describing from your experience as a sister, what specifically in Sisters do you see those things being replicated?
Well,
or are there similar things that are not quite your experience?
Well, I never asked for a sister, but when they're doing dishes, when they're like done with their dinner and they're like going to pack, but like rinsing off their dishes, Amara keeps messing with Raina and bugging her.
Wait, when you say about packing, that's for the trip that they're going to take. Okay.
And Raina like kind of like drops her plate into the sink, it looks like, and says that wish I never asked for a sister.
Well, and that's where
that's where
we got the flashback that I just described. So.
Yeah, and it's that like your siblings are like always trying to mess with you, and they're being really annoying. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, now, I am, but
wasn't Amara referencing
the incident?
The incident,
yeah.
Besides that, was there anything else that you recognize in here in terms of how your relationship is with your siblings?
Well, when you're going on a car ride or you're going somewhere doing something, you have something that your other siblings want to use that's yours, and you don't want them to, so you just kind of hide it away like she did with her colored pencils. Raina buried her colored pencils in her suitcase because she didn't want Amara using them.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we do.
Okay, so things like that in the book you find very true to your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how those kinds of things are perhaps universal to all siblings. I don't know. I'm sure that I did something similar to my brother. Mm-hmm. Just to be a jerk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. So we've talked about the trip in general. So over the summer there is this family reunion of, I forget, it's the mom's family, right? Okay, because there's that scene later where
the mom's sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
okay.
Where they are.
So there's a bunch of people that are congregating in Colorado, and so Raina's mother and Raina, Amara, and the little brother Will are all going to drive out to Colorado from San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And so we get the build up to that. We talked about the incident thing. That's why Raina doesn't sit in the front seat. And there's this nice picture. There's one splash page in here, Madison. Where is it?
What?
It's when they first get into the car and start to go.
Oh yeah.
And
I like that one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Did you find that to be true too? Because while the car that we have does have a third seat, we often don't use it. So it's not like you're sitting in the middle area and Gabby's sitting in the back, or vice versa. But so you guys share the back seat, not the third row, but the back seat. And so you're close proximity. You got your own things going on, and so you have that experience. Oh, here it is. I found it. The Anatomy of a Road Trip.
Yeah.
That.
Mm-hmm.
So how accurate of a description is this page to road trips that you've been on?
Not very.
Really?
Yeah, because our stuff, we have our travel bags right in the middle by each other's, and stuff all over the floor and in like all over the place. And our stuff, since we kind of like borrow each other's stuff if the other one says we can or something like that, it gets everywhere. And so we don't really have our own little area.
So let me just describe this for the listeners here.
Okay.
Like I said, anatomy of a road trip, and it's just this one page, and there's a lot of stuff going on, lots of text, lots of arrows pointing here and there. And so so this is a van that they're driving in. It looks like a VW van to me.
It's a van.
In the very back is stuff. So, it looks like some boxes, bags, suitcases, yeah,
normal stuff
like that. The stuff that we put in the back of our car every time we go on a road trip. And then there's the third seat from the back, and this is Raina labels this Amara's Wild Kingdom. Mm-hmm. Why do you think she did that?
I don't know. It's weird that that's what she would call it, but I don't know what it would be. Why?
Well, remember, Amara, she likes maps.
She does like snakes and deer and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Because soon after this part of the book, they arrive at this campsite and they get out, and there's a deer that Amara sees, and she just goes crazy.
Yeah, and since she was little, she's liked animals. Because there was this one animal like circle thing. You put on the thing and then you play it.
Oh, the record.
Yeah, that. Yeah. There's an animal one that she would always listen to.
Play. Yeah. Sort of like how you were watching Newsies this summer. Yeah. You see how annoying that is?
Nope.
Okay. So Amara's in that third seat. She's got a National Geographic magazine. She's got a road atlas. And then there's a bunch of paper, pens, pencils, fruit snacks. Art. And more importantly, describe how Amara is shown here in the back.
She looks grumpy.
She does look grumpy. She's got a scowl on her face.
Arms crossed.
Which is funny because I don't think, this is not after even when she's getting into the van, you see that she's kind of cranky.
Well, that's because she wanted to sit in front and Will got to sit in front.
Oh, you're right.
So she's grumpy.
Yeah. And Will's ecstatic to be sitting up front. He thinks that's really cool. And then Raina's in the middle.
Yeah.
This is called Raina's Radical Zone. And she's laying down. How jealous are you that Raina gets to lay down on a road trip?
I want to do that. I would sleep.
So speaking of sleep, there's a pillow there. She's laying down on the pillow. She's got her headphones on. She's listening to her Walkman. She's got some Pringles. It just says chips, but it's in a tube, so that's Pringles. She's got some teen magazines. It says YM. Is that an actual teen magazine?
I have no idea.
I would not know.
I don't know.
And then and her bear, her teddy bear that she has, that plays an important part later in the book. But then there's also a label here for Linda Berry Comics. Do you know who Linda Berry is?
No.
So I found this very interesting because I didn't know who Linda Berry was. I thought I recognized the name, but I think I was confusing her with some other cartoonist named Berry. But anyway, so I looked it up. Linda Berry is the creator of, or I guess she's mostly known for Ernie Pooch's comic.
What?
And it's also although Linda Berry denied it, it is considered a fictional memoir, if you will, an autobiographical type comic. And I read a little bit of those when I was looking into this, and boy, because Raina, how old do you think Raina is in this book?
Well, she's like just going into high school, so she's about my age.
Yeah, 14, 15, maybe 16 at most. Probably not 16. Probably she doesn't seem 16.
Not yet.
So, does it say?
I don't think so. I don't think they ever said.
I think you're right. I think she's probably 14, 15, your age. And so anyway, when I read some of those Linda Berry, what did they say? Ernie Pooch's comic?
That sounds weird.
Comic is spelled Comeek. Comic. So anyway, they seem a little more mature than someone of that age, of Raina's age, to be reading. Not that it's, adult or graphic in any way. It's just dealing with, to me, it felt like it was dealing with subject matter and themes that were maybe for a slightly older person. So I found it very interesting that Raina was reading Linda Berry comics. I might have to research that more because I find that very fascinating, why she was into Linda Berry. And then, beyond Linda Berry, what else was she reading at that time? I actually like to find that out.
She was also reading Calvin and Hobbes.
Well, yeah, once they arrive in Colorado and she starts talking to her cousins, I think she's talking about how she likes to draw and she likes comics. And they were like, hey, what comics do you like? And she says...
Calvin and Hobbes and a bunch of other ones.
Comic strips, right?
Yeah.
That are considered comic strips. And then the one, there's two boys that she's talking to. And one, I think, who is slightly younger than her, and then one that's slightly older than her. The younger one's like, well, those aren't real comics. Being the typical dude bro about comics.
Dude bro?
Yeah, dude bro.
Okay.
He's being a gatekeeper, and that's not a good thing because those are comics. They're just not what we think of normally as comic books, but it doesn't matter.
They're comics, but not the guys, apparently.
Well, or at least that guy.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up reading those things. I read Garfield and Calvin
I love
and Hobbes
Garfield.
Yeah. Prince Valiant. You probably don't know who that is, do you? Oh, I used to love Prince Valiant, man. That was different than anything else on the Sunday Comics page. Anyway, and then finally there's the front seat with Will. It's called Little Brother section. I just liked how she.
Wait, that's what it's called? Oh,
right there.
Oh,
she doesn't even call him Will in here. Like she says Amara's Wild Kingdom, and she labels herself her section and mom. I mean, mom is a name.
Mom is just mom.
Mom. It's mom's corner. But Will gets little brother section. Like he's not even really a person to her in this. It's kind of weird. And Will, while he's there, doesn't really. There's not a lot of interaction between her, Raina, and Will.
Will seems very loud and full of energy and kind of annoying.
Does it remind you of your little brother?
No, it reminds me of my little sister.
Oh.
No, my little brother just wants to play on the PS4 all day.
Ah, okay.
That's all he does.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I really love that page. That's why I wanted to talk about it. So they go off on the trip, and we already talked about the deer where, and I love that how, so they get out and Raina's stepping out and steps on a twig or something. It makes a sound, and Amara shushes her really loudly. Like, I mean, it's really loud. So what good is that, right? But the reason is because there's a deer nearby, and she starts running over to it. And don't you love the way that Raina does this two panel shot of Amara with these big saucer eyes and a little heart emoji above her head to let us know she loves this. And that's one of the things I love about what Raina's work is that she delves into the cartoon strip type elements, like a heart above someone's head to denote love, to make sure you understand this. And there's a lot of things like that. There's another one that I'm reminded of. The snake, when, is it the snake? So why don't you just talk about a little bit about the snake thing, about how that came about and what happened while I'm trying to find
There's many snake parts. Which one are you talking about?
Well, there's really only one there's one in the beginning
Amara's
and
snake?
then one in the end. So
Amara's snake.
Amara's snake.
Okay. Well.
Oh, you're talking about that other snake. All right.
So Amara got a snake and it wasn't eating, so they took it in the car to,
take it back to the store.
Yeah, but when it wasn't eating, she was trying to figure out why and put her hand in the cage and it tried to bite her. And so she was scared of it. And at one point, when they were in the car, the snake got out of the cage or whatever it was in and was going in under her car seat into onto the chair. And so she was so scared of it biting her, she didn't grab it. So the snake was just going around in the car, but they couldn't find it. So Raina got in. They went to pick Raina up from Girl Scout camp or something.
Yes.
And
okay,
yeah.
And this is what I was talking about. So
that's what I was saying.
So they pull over the car. This is after Raina is, or no, they try to find the snake. They can't find it. They go pick up Raina. So the next page is after they get Raina home, and then she off panel, but off page, they have told Raina that the snake was in the car, and then you get this page with again the saucer eyes, but a completely different look because it's like how would you describe the look that on Raina's face right there?
Well, she doesn't look like really freaked out. She just looks super surprised there, and then she freaks out on the next.
Yeah, I would describe that face as shock. Like she's trying to process what she was just told, and then it hits her, and then this is what I was talking about, the cartoony or like the cartoon strip style, because it's very exaggerated, and she's yelling, "There's a snake in the van!" and her arms are all flailing, and she's shaking so much that we see double images of her face and stuff. It's a very cartoon strip like thing to do, but I think it's so effective.
It's funny.
It's funny, but it conveys the emotion of the moment. It's exaggerated, of course, because most people don't probably react that way. You might.
I hate snakes.
Anyway, I like that kind of stuff. So, okay, like I said, they go on this road trip. There's this background of a snake being in the van, and it's still in the van as far as we know. They still haven't gotten the snake out of the van, although Raina doesn't seem to be too bothered by it because
it was in there for like 2 months.
They think that's right, because they think it's probably dead or it's gotten out. Right? Okay.
It'd be dead, but
well, then we've kind of spoiled it for people because then we do find out later that the snake actually was in there. We'll come back to that though, because that's a very important scene.
That's funny.
Okay, so like I said, they get to the reunion, and there's a point, or so she is looking forward to spending time with one of her cousins. I can't remember her name.
Lindsay, I think.
Was it Lindsay? Yes, you're right, Lindsay. Oh, yeah, no, Raina says, I just found the page. Raina says she's 14.
Oh, yeah.
In this. So, yeah, there you go.
She's my age.
She's your age. Lindsay, I think, is a year or two older.
I think so.
And Lindsay now is wearing makeup. I think she's probably 2 years older. She definitely considers herself the more mature one. And that while the last time that they had a reunion, which was some years ago, I don't think they said.
A long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
It looked like Lindsay was about 10 when they did. I think they said that or something.
Okay. So, but now even though they're only, let's just say that she's 16. Now that they're only 2 years apart, they seem even more different than maybe they were before from each other. And it's really interesting how much difference there is between a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. You'll find out. Well, I guess you could kind of see it with your older sisters.
I mean, I would say that my sister Tanya, we're kind of the same age, but she's like the most mature one out of us all. And so she acts like a lot older than she is, because she's mature and responsible and wants to get things done, when we kind of just don't care. We just want to like lay on the couch, watch TV all day and stuff.
She sounds like the older sibling, like I was describing myself. Yeah. Yeah,
she's like...
All right. Anyway, like I said, the teddy bear, we mentioned that earlier. There's a point where, like I said, they're at the reunion house, and Raina is in a sleeping bag in the living room, and she wakes up to her cousins giggling, laughing at her because she's sleeping with that teddy bear. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what are you, 13? And she angrily says, I'm 14. And they laugh at her. And then, I wanted to ask you about this. So Raina says, I don't care about this stupid bear. My sister probably packed him. And then one of the guys says, not believing her. Mm-hmm. And she says, I'll prove it, and throws the bear across the room. And then the panel that ends that page is her staring at the bear across the room. And she's thinking to herself, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
That was funny. Because like, she didn't have her pillow, so she was using the teddy bear as a pillow, and then she grabbed the teddy bear because Amara took her pillow.
That was a different scene.
Yeah. And so she had the teddy bear as a pillow, and then she took it and was cuddling it, kind of. And I just thought it was funny because, yeah, it's just funny.
But what about her reaction to her cousins mocking her, and what she did because of that?
That's something I think a lot of people would do. Because
is that something you've done? Not necessarily with a teddy bear, but other things where you were being teased for liking or doing something that might be considered for younger kids?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's not happened to you, huh?
No. Even if it does, I don't care.
Well, that's good. That's kind of what I'm getting at here, because it's you shouldn't feel ashamed for liking things that others may consider to be beneath.
I have so many stuffed animals in my room.
Well, and we're talking about a comic here, right? Comic books. You haven't lived through this. I did. Comic books at one time were considered for kids.
Really?
For people younger than you. And if you liked comics, or if you were into comics like I was, you were considered to be not mature. Let's just put it that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You were into things that were for kiddies.
Yeah. No one does that. No one cares.
Well, and that's probably one of the best things about how things have progressed over the last 40 years for me, is that comic books now are considered just another form of entertainment. And they're not considered to be just, nerd entertainment, or to be...
Well, they're still nerdy, apparently, to most people.
Sure, but it's still a lot more accepted now than it used to be, for sure. So I do like that aspect. But so let's skip to the return trip.
Oh.
And then we'll go back and talk about some of the things that you had comments on. So they all go back. Again, it's the mother and the 3 children. The father had flown out to Colorado, ostensibly because of work. We find out, however, that's not the only reason. We'll get to that. In fact, that's where we're at right now, because as they're traveling back, Raina's in the middle seat again, listening to her music, and then she says, "Hey, Mom, I just realized you never kissed Dad goodbye. How come?" And Mom has this worried look on her face. She's kind of staring in front of her. And Raina says, "And when he said he'd drive you crazy, that was just a joke, right?" And there was an earlier scene as to, because I think Will was asking Dad, "Why can't you just come back?" Or maybe it was Amara.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But I just wish you could come back with us. And the dad makes a kind of a joke about driving Mom crazy, because Mom reacts a little, not quite angrily, but sort of angrily about something else that was part of the conversation.
Also, Will was in the car on the way there, and he was making a lot of noise and wouldn't be quiet or settle down.
I think that was a different scene, but
they were talking about, and then the mom made a comment about how Will's just like his dad.
Yes.
How he's always super noisy and crazy. And,
but that was a different point.
But that's one thing.
Yeah. But anyway, she's like, when he said he'd drive you crazy, that was a joke, right? And Amara says, "Raina, don't be an idiot," as a sister might. And they start arguing, and then Mom says, "That's okay. Your dad and I, we wanted to spend some time apart this summer." Raina said, "I thought he couldn't drive with us because of work." And Mom says, "That's part of the reason too. Anyway, I don't want you kids to worry, okay? Everything's going to be," and then tragedy strikes because the van breaks down. So obviously Mom and Dad are having some issues.
Yeah.
They decided to spend some time apart. That's why Mom reacted in the way that she did in a couple earlier scenes with Dad. Anyway, so the van breaks down. Mom decides that she needs to get in a mechanic, and so she and Will hitchhike. This guy in a truck pulls over. and this is another one of those kind of comic strip type scene or panels where Raina and Amara. So mom decides to leave the girls in the van. It's kind of a questionable decision.
Why would she take the boy and not the girls?
Because he's younger, I guess. I'm not sure. I mean, later she tells the girls that she should never have left them alone, and I totally agree with that. But anyway, so but the panel where the two of them with, I don't know, how would you describe their faces there?
They're like freaking out.
They're freaking out, right? They're getting and both. So this is also again kind of like a comic strippy type thing to do. They both say the same thing at the same time. So there's one word balloon, but it's shared by both of them talking, and they're both saying. And of course, that would never happen, right? No one says the exact same words at the exact same time, generally speaking, right?
Every once in a while, it does happen.
But it's it's more of a weird coincidence than this. But anyway, they're getting in, they're waving, "Bye, Mom, don't get killed." I mean, because come on, that's kind of a hyper exaggerated moment, right? but it's very comical, right? And Raina's waving her arm at her. Amara's also, she's got her hands on the window, like, "Don't leave us."
Wait, she does?
Yeah.
That's what she does. Okay. I couldn't tell if she was like waving or just standing there.
Yeah. And then Will's response is like, he gives him like the rock on sign.
Oh.
And he's smiling big. Anyway, Raina says, of course, Will thinks this is the coolest day of his life. Anyway, so they being Raina and Amara are just in the van.
Yeah.
And it's hot because I don't know where this is, actually. Do we know where this is?
No, it's in the middle.
Colorado.
It's in the middle of nowhere.
Maybe it's because there's a map. Oh, there another one of those splash page maps. Oh yeah, because they go. So when they travel out, they go from California through Nevada, Utah to Colorado, and then on the way, Mom decided on the way back to go from Colorado down to New Mexico, Arizona, and then up through Southern California to San Francisco. And so that's what I imagine is they're either in New Mexico or Arizona at this point.
Probably Arizona.
Yeah. So anyway, they're in the van. It's very hot. They're getting on each other's nerves. Raina's tapping her feet on the back of Amara's tapping her feet on the back of Raina's seat, and Raina freaks out and yells at her, "Would you cut that out?" More time passes. They're getting hungry.
I want Burger King.
I was just going to get to that. You skipped to it. We find out that it's been almost 4 hours that Mom and Will have been gone, and the two of them have been in the car, basically mostly getting along, but Raina's about had it. So Raina turns to Amara and says, "Do you think the guy who picked up Mom and Will was a psycho?" Amara says, "Nah, he looked normal." I'm sure they're at least headed back now. Maybe they'll bring us food, unless they already got food and the tow truck dude doesn't let them bring it along in the truck. All I want to now is Burger King. She's freaking out. And then her Walkman goes dead. And we should have talked about this earlier.
What? The snake?
No. So the Walkman goes dead, and Amara kind of unleashes on Raina and says, "Would it be the end of the world for you to not have your Walkman on for a few hours?" And so what I was referring to was there was a point earlier on in the trip when they were going to Colorado that Mom pulled over to that
dinosaur?
Not the dinosaur one. Maybe it was. Anyway, they had stopped for the night, and Mom was trying to entertain them she took them out into the darkness so they could see the stars, which was really impressive. But then they were around a campfire, and her mom was playing a guitar and singing Kumbaya. And Raina was sitting there with her headphones on, not being part of the family. And I think there was another major scene as well. Earlier on than that in the trip, Amara puts her headphones on, and the family, Raina, the family's talking, kind of excitedly. It's the beginning of the trip and whatnot, and she's tuned out. And so we see that constantly throughout the book, right? And so this is Amara talking about that. So she asked that question, and Raina's like, "Yes." And then
You can't tell them apart anymore.
Amara says, what if mom seriously never comes back? Wouldn't that be worse? And that causes Raina to kind of take a moment. And she says, Amara, you don't think mom and dad are going to split up, do you? And then they're just sitting there in silence. Amara says, finally, I don't know. They haven't really gotten along for years. Haven't you noticed all the little signs? Raina says, no. And Amara says, maybe if you weren't so busy tuning out the rest of the world. And that's when they're interrupted by the reappearance of the snake. Mm-hmm. The result of this, though, is that Amara takes a sack, recaptures the snake.
Raina does that, actually. Because...
No, that's Amara.
Oh, yeah. But that's because Raina did make...
Raina did empty the sack, yes.
Because she was trying to get her sister to take care of it, but she wouldn't.
Raina tries to talk Amara into dropping the snake out in the desert, but Amara says, but he's my pet. He's like a member of the family. And eventually, so then Raina drops that idea. Amara says, listen, this means a lot to me. And Raina, in the back seat, not in the middle seat, the back seat, she's kind of hunched down below, barely looking over the seat at Amara, says, I know. If you let me keep Mango, which is the name of the snake, I'll give you something you really want. And Raina suspiciously looks at Amara and says, what? And Amara, she gets into a bag and pulls out batteries for Raina's Walkman. So I thought that was a lovely scene. They just barely got into the whole parent separation thing. And then, so as to not, I guess, well, let me ask you, why do you think that Raina sidestepped that moment to go into the comedy of the snake reappearing?
Well, I don't know, because it's like a very serious moment and is like, they're talking about something like that could happen. And they're like kind of like freaked out about it and nervous. And then they stop for a second, and then all of a sudden there's a snake, and it just changes the whole thing and makes it funny. Yeah.
So I think you're kind of getting to it. That's kind of a heavy subject matter to get into for maybe middle school readers. I don't know. So yeah, and that's a typical thing. I mean, because generally speaking, this is not a serious book. It's a kind of a comedy for the most part, right? So you probably don't want to veer too much into the serious nature of life, at least in what we're shown here, too much. And before I get to the last thing that I want to talk about, because we should have talked about this before, and that's the scene when they were still at the reunion between Raina and Amara. Let me find that.
The one where they're outside, and then
So after the bear tossing incident and some other things that happened, well, no, it's right after that. Raina goes in the bathroom to get ready for her day, and she sees some of Lindsay's beauty products and decides to put makeup on. And as she comes out, she passes Amara going in to take a shower, and Amara's like, "Ew, what did you do to your face?" As a sister would, right? Anyway, so they're having this conversation. We basically just kind of see the hustle and bustle. We see the adults arguing about various things, and the way that Raina conveys that's kind of comical. It's just one word balloon. It's more describing what's going on rather than actual words that the adults are saying, but it's conveying them talking about boring adult stuff, money, when grandpa was alive, last will and testament, politics, religion, raising your children wrong, and then they all start arguing with each other. Mm-hmm. And then the little kids are running through the house, charge! So Raina decides she's had a little enough and decides to walk outside, and she discovers her sister sitting there by herself. And they're both sitting there, and Raina finally says, "You ever feel like you just don't fit in?" And Amara says, "All the time." The difference is between you and me is I don't care.
That part's me. I don't care. If I
Well,
don't fit in and people like are being dumb and annoying, I don't care. Like, I will find something to do.
And that's why I wanted to kind of in part to bring that up, because I know that about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was wondering or asked the question earlier, which sister do you identify more with? And in some parts, and you said both, right? Because I think you're more, you can easily identify with Raina because of her artistic endeavors. And then Amara in the way that she interacts with her sibling. And in particular, this
and the fact that she just doesn't really care.
Doesn't really care. And quite honestly, Madison, I don't want to get too psychological here, but that kind of concerns me about you.
Why?
You don't want to, because you run the danger of going too far with that attitude and walling yourself off from people, which is something that I dealt with when I was younger.
Well,
So-
I don't care, but my friends that I have right now know that about me, and they know that, like, if they do something dumb or they're in a fight with someone else, that if they come to me, it's gonna be all like, just go talk to the person, it'll fix it, and they will refuse, and then I will, like, not talk to them for like a week because they're being stupid.
Well, that's an interesting approach. Again, I will caution you because that doesn't serve you well when you're an adult. That adults don't take kindly to that kind of response to things. So anyway, like I said, I don't want to get into this with you too much, but be careful of that. Anyway, so Raina then, after Amara says that about her not caring and the difference between them, Raina says, hey, I did bring the colored pencils on the trip. I had them in my suitcase. You want to use them? I'll totally go get them for you. And Amara's like, she's not impressed. She's like, nah, like I said, I don't really care. And then they argue about that because Raina was doing a nice thing, even though she kept it from her sister, which is not a nice thing. And they get into an argument and they leave. But I thought that was really nice of Raina to reach out to her sister like that.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. Have you ever had experiences like that with your siblings?
No.
Really?
With us, we will either give each other what we want in return for something else, or we will
So just like before when Amara was trying to negotiate, she knew that Raina had the colored pencils, even though Raina said she didn't. Amara was trying to barter with her earlier on in the trip. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, or we will just fight with each other, or if we start fighting, we will ignore each other. We're not just nice to each other and just offer. They either have to come ask for it and deal with us saying no, or just do their own thing.
Okay, so
we don't like to share.
Okay. But after reading this, or maybe us talking about it, do you feel any differently about those kind of situations? Like maybe you should do things differently with your siblings?
No. Should I?
I kind of hoped you would after reading this, because it kind of demonstrates the futility of that kind of relationship, that transactional relationship. Like
that is very difficult.
I get it. I totally understand that. I
would just say is forget it. It's useless.
Why?
Because like when we have tried being nice to each other, it's not very easy. And so if we get into an argument or if we just are mad at one another, we ignore each other and we won't try to figure it out because it won't work. It'll just make things worse.
So you haven't been moved at all by reading or rereading the story now to try things differently?
Nope.
All right. Well, it makes me think about how I treat or have treated my brother in the past. So mostly it makes me feel sad that in the way that I did treat my brother when I was younger.
Well, you guys are also boys.
That doesn't matter. I mean, boys have or brothers have different relationships than sisters, but really it is really universal.
Girls are harder to get along with.
I wouldn't know.
They are.
I mean, I've seen it. I've now raised 2 families of just girls, so I've definitely seen that aspect, but not having directly had to deal with it with a sibling. I know that's a little different than being the parent involved. So, okay, let's get back to the sister's story. So, like I said, mom gets back, or Amara gave Raina the batteries. So given that previous scene that we just talked about, and then this, so I find it interesting that it's Amara that extends the olive branch, that tries to make peace with her sister, as opposed to the other way around. I mean, Raina tried to do it with the colored pencil scene, so maybe that's the progression. That's the dichotomy here that really needs to happen. The mirror. So Raina tried it, it didn't work. Amara tried it, but it did work this time.
Well, little sisters, they can get almost anything to work if they try hard enough. If it's an older sister, if they try to do something nice for the little sister, it won't work. Well, unless the little sister is in a good mood. I'm
curious for the listeners out there, because this is, I mean, you're talking about your specific experience.
Yes.
So I'm curious if other sibling situations have have the listeners had similar experiences to yours, or are they different? So I'd be fascinated to know that, or be interested to know that. So anyway, like I said, mom arrives. They go to, McDonald's. They go to a McDonald's and they're just chowing down.
That's what Amara wants.
Yeah. The panel here is eat, snarf, nom, grub, shovel, yum. Anyway, mom says, girls, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking, leaving you 2 all alone. What if something had happened to you? But Amara, it's always, this is the other thing I want to talk about Amara. Amara says, it's okay, Mom. Finding a ride for 4 would have been harder than 2. And anyway, we survived, right, Raina? And Raina's like, barely. But I found it interesting in reading this book again. Even though this is Raina telling the story about her and her sister and by extension her family, I found it curious that Amara seemed to be the more mature one in a lot of ways. So in that earlier scene that we described where she's like, I just don't care, that takes some perception that I think is maybe a little more mature than her age to realize that. I'm not saying that I agree with it or that that's how you specifically should approach life, but it's
working for me so far.
So far, I'm sure it will. But it's not something that I don't know. I wanted to say most people realize. Maybe that's just way overgeneralizing things. But then there's this scene with Amara where she's like, "Hey, no problem, man. I totally get it, and here's why." She's very logical about it.
Oh yeah, I'd be Raina at that point.
Yeah, Raina seems to be the more, even though Amara can be very emotional and cranky and angry and shut off, kind of like the opposite of that. Raina, to me, seems to be the more emotional one, and Amara the more logical one in many ways. So, anyway, how did you do you see that? Do you think I'm wrong about that in my assessment of the 2 characters?
No. Actually, with our siblings, Sasha, she is the more logical one than all of us. We all just want, like, if we are hungry, we want our food, and we want it, like, whenever. And if that something like that did happen, she'd be the logical one and the smart one. Because she's smarter than most of
I don't understand. What does the food have to do with it?
I'm just giving an example. Like, if that kind of thing happened, she'd be Amara, and all of the other kids would be Raina. she would say like, "Oh, it's fine. It's easier for that," and we would, and like that kind of thing.
Well, sure. I'm sure
everyone else would be the other way around.
Sure. I mean, anytime you have a group of people, there's usually one that's one way and one that's another. But in terms of this story, I was curious what your reaction was to that idea of the two sisters.
Well, I like that the idea of it, and I like that I like the way that she made it, like the way it is. But like, I don't know. Amara can be very confusing. I mean, Raina can too, but Amara's a lot more confusing.
Yeah.
Because, like, she's younger, so she's like, just you.
Well, that's what I mean. Her being the younger person, yet she seems to have a grasp of the situation that is more mature than Raina, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not to say that all older siblings are more mature than their younger siblings.
I feel like the younger siblings can be more aware than the older ones, because the older ones just care about like this kind of thing,
thank you,
and like trends and popularity and that kind of stuff.
So let's go back to the book. Exactly, because it's Amara that makes that statement about the parents. They've been like this for years. Haven't you noticed? Mm-hmm. And Raina's like, no, basically, because she's so wrapped up in her own head and what she's experiencing and what she's doing, which is actually quite a typical thing for teenagers of your age and older.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you're exactly right. That's exactly what's going on here. So, okay. So let's get back to the very end of the book. And so the family's back together in the van. They're getting ready to leave. And Amara says, we've got something to show you. And Raina's still like, don't show her, just tell her, about the snake.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple panels here of Amara just talking about what's happened in the last 4+ hours. And Raina looks down and sees the batteries that are in her pocket. So she pulls them out, puts them in her Walkman. Amara's still talking about the what happened. And we get this little panel here of Amara still talking to Mom. They're now driving. Raina is now listening to her music. She's content. And then the next page, Amara looks back at her sister. I did it again. Raina looks back at her sister Amara, and they're just kind of staring at each other with these big eyes like, how would you describe that look?
That look is
specifically Amara.
Raina's listening to her music, and you would expect that's all she would be doing. You don't expect someone like that to kind of peek back and look at you. So you're kind of like surprised. It's a surprise that she's looking back at you.
Is it? I think you're right in part, but is it also like essentially we talked about this? What are you doing?
Oh.
You didn't take it that way?
No, well, I mean, maybe for her, but not for us. It'd just be like very surprising.
Well, but
you're looking at me.
We're talking about what's being shown here. Not
I know, but that's
specifically your experience.
I know, but that's what I would say.
Okay, but that causes Raina to take off the headphones, and she looks back and smiles at her sister. Amara looks down, but is smiling. They seem content in the moment, and you turn the page. And to me, this is the best panel in the entire book.
Where they're all talking?
Where they're all just, as they're driving home, they're all sitting there talking to each other, interacting, being a family. And then, as Raina does in her books, and I forgot to talk about this at the beginning, but she pulls out from the specific moment, getting wider and wider, and then the book ends with a splash page of
I like that one.
Them driving down the highway. It's the sun setting, and they're heading home. What was your reaction to this scene?
I liked it. It was nice and pretty.
Well, the art is specifically nice to look at. But how did you feel about the
talking.
To me, that's a very emotional scene. Even though there's not a lot going on there, it's just showing them talking, right? But the buildup of the entire book of almost 200 pages of this, telling this story, leads up to that specific moment.
Well, I liked it, but it seems very unlikely.
So you don't buy it because you haven't experienced something like that. Is that right? Or do you just don't think it's realistic at all?
Well, it could be, but I'd be very surprised if that did happen. Because when you have a bunch of kids in a car, normally you'd be on an electronic or doing something else and not paying attention to anyone except for yourself.
Now, do you see why your grandmother and I, when we are on road trips, we're always telling you guys to put that stuff down and take a look around you,
or take a break,
talk with us, kind of stuff? That's kind of why we do it. You don't care.
Well, I'm not. If it's I don't like road trips very much. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it doesn't make me feel good, and it's not always because I'm on the electronics all the time. Surprise. It's just I don't feel good. So I don't like road trips, and that's one reason why I'm always doing something else, because it kind of distracts me. But also, most of the time, they're just boring.
Yeah. Well, I don't, certainly, to riff off what you just said, I certainly don't think this book is boring.
That book is not boring.
Nor do I think that the depiction of the road trip at all was boring. There's a lot of cool things that...
There's a lot of talking.
Well, yeah, as there should be. So... Anyway, I love that ending. I thought it was a great way to end the book. I talked about the maturity of Amara. Mm-hmm. I felt like in the moment there with that scene between the two of them, that Raina has finally achieved a level of maturity. She recognizes that everything isn't just about her and what she wants in the moment. It's about connecting with her sister, her family. And I think that's a great message, especially to young readers such as yourself.
Well, especially since half of the time when you're talking and you're talking to people and you're talking about me or say something to me, I'm have no idea and I'm not even paying attention.
Well, when you mature, maybe that'll change. You should have seen the look that she gave me, listeners. Okay. Let's transition into talking about some of your notes or your questions. I'm trying to see here if there's something that we may have already talked about some of these, so I'm just kind of looking at them here. So you said some of the notes you have here. We can sometimes get along. You mean you're talking about your siblings, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's just the way sisters are. You basically already said that.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny to me, the book.
Yeah.
Because that's how you and your siblings are. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically the same thing.
I can relate to both the sisters because I am you talked about being the middle child and you get both sides. Yeah. Which I thought that was a very interesting point that you brought up.
Yeah. Because you got to be a younger sister and an older sister, which is kind of annoying, but still. It's kind of fun, but it's kind of annoying. Because you got people asking you, can I do this? Can I have this? And then you have to ask the older sister, can I have this? You always get asked if you can have this, but then when you want something, you have to ask for it. It's just annoying.
So I'm looking through Madison's notes. So Madison likes to put her notes on stickies and put them on the pages. So I'm just kind of flipping through the book here to see if there's anything that we haven't talked about. Is there anything that you recall that we haven't discussed that you wanted to get into?
Not really.
Mostly a lot of your comments in here are just reacting to what you read.
Yeah.
What did talk about the art? Is there anything specific? Because there's a couple things where you've already said where you really like that page, or you like that sunset splash page, or is there anything else like that you wanted to talk about? Well, what about this kind of not really a dream sequence, but kind of a daydream. I just call it a daydream sequence here. This 2-page thing with Raina.
It looks cool, but it's also kind of weird seeing it like that because that's not normally what you what I see.
It's
so
very
it's
different
just- yeah.
to see this in this book, because this is a moment where dad comes. This is during a flashback where dad comes home and says he lost his job, and Raina is surprised, and I think she's probably anxious about it, and she says, maybe if I wish hard enough, this will all be a dream. And then we turn the page, and it's very much a dream-like sequence where she's just kind of mulling it over in her head, but she's kind of falling through the sky, and there's stars and clouds in the background. It's kind of different.
For me, when I draw and stuff, I don't like doing the main like drawing. Background is my favorite thing to do, and that's what I pay most attention to, instead of just like the main thing that like most people would just look at that. I look at the background, which I like the background. I think it's really cool how they do that. That's why I like the back page so much.
So you're basically saying you like landscape pictures or drawings?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. We talked about that scene earlier between the male cousins and Raina about comics. Yeah. So yeah, one of the older cousins is like, what's your thing? Asking Raina. And he says, yeah, do you like rap music, horror movies, Beverly Hills 90210, which kind of dates this book, but that's okay. She says, oh, I like comics. And the younger guy that's there says, yeah, like Batman, Hulk, X-Men. And she says, like you said, I like Calvin and Hobbes, for better or for worse, Foxtrot. And he goes, those aren't real comics. And your note, I just thought it was funny. They are real, just not boy kind of real.
Yeah. Because to boys, it's superhero comics and like that kind of stuff. That's kind of how it used to be. I mean, Calvin and Hobbes is kind of like a boy comic now. But it...
What do you mean now?
Well, whatever.
Okay.
Boys read it like a lot more than I think they would used to now. I don't like that's kind of what it seems like.
Are you saying that boys are more likely to read comic strips now more than they used to?
No, like that kind of comic. I'm saying like boys would normally just read like superhero comics and that kind of stuff.
Now, aren't you now overgeneralizing based on gender, like he did?
No, that's just what I'm saying, that they would normally read. And that's what they say would be real comics.
All right. Have you, so obviously you've already mentioned that you are familiar with Calvin and Hobbes. In fact, I've given you four?
I think so.
4 collections of Calvin and Hobbes comics that I had for you to read because I figured you might like them.
I like Hobbes.
Have you ever read For Better or For Worse?
No clue what that is.
Okay.
I don't know either of this.
For Better or For Worse is actually a very good comic strip. I've not read much of Foxtrot. I from what I recall, it's not something that I care for all that much. But that's probably the bad thing about us not getting a newspaper is that we don't get to read those comic strips anymore.
Yeah, those were my favorite.
Yeah,
I loved reading those. That's the only reason why I would open the newspaper, just to find those.
There's another comment here. This is when they're at the family reunion, and all you simply have on the sticky here is family reunions. Ugh.
Yeah. Family reunions. They are exhausting. Like, there's people everywhere. There's a bunch of kids running around, and like you and your cousins meet up and like talk and have fun, and then it gets kind of boring because there's like nothing to do, and like you're older now. Like when you're young, like really young, it's easier to get along and play with all your cousins. But when you get older, you guys start liking a bunch of different stuff, and it's like not as easy to get along with them.
So do you feel then that this was a pretty accurate depiction of a reunion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Finally, I just want to say, well, is there anything else you want to say about the book? Well, here, let me ask you this. So you obviously like the book. You've already said that. Have you recommended it to other people, friends of yours?
I don't know.
Do you know of anybody that has read this besides you and me?
I don't know. I don't remember. Because I think I gave one to Byerly because I had like 2. I've had 2 of many of those books.
You gave her the extra copy?
I think so. Because
what are you doing?
No.
You give them to me. Anyway, so you obviously haven't talked to her about it.
No.
Okay. But would you? So if you found out, so let's say if you go back to school, this being near the end of summer 2020, and we still have a pandemic going on, and the question of whether or not you will be going to school and be in class is still in question. But let's say, down the road, if and when, hopefully when things return to normal and you go back to school, or you just meet someone of your own age and you find out they like comics, is this a book that you would recommend to them?
Probably.
And why is that?
Because it's a good comic.
I can't think of a better endorsement than that, Madison.
I don't know what else.
What did you, and this is just as a parting thing, so as Raina did in Smile, at the very back of the book, she includes some photos of her and her family.
It's interesting seeing what they look like.
Yeah, so we actually see Raina and Amara, and I think that's Will in one of those pictures in the corner.
Look like the very bottom.
Yeah. So yeah, you get this nice, this nice progression through time of these siblings, from young children, young girls to teenagers.
Yeah.
And there's even one of Raina there with her braces. So I thought that was neat. I don't know. Like I said, I had one sister, a younger sister, and we were about 6 years apart. And so we never, part of my experience reading this book again had me thinking about Dawn a lot and how I didn't really spend a lot of time with her because we were 6 years apart. And I was
different genders.
And well, that doesn't, but that doesn't really matter. I should have made more of an effort to spend more time with her when she was younger, and definitely as we got older. So in one way, this book kind of made me a little sad, but it's still a great read. I highly recommend Raina Telgemeier's work. There's Smile, Sisters. Is that the only out of all the books that she has published? That's the only ones that are about her. No, Guts. Guts is about her family too, or involves her family. So there are 3 books about Raina's life, and then there's Drama,
Ghost,
and Ghosts, which are about totally different characters, and not real characters, or at least people that she knew in life, I guess. So anyway, we might get to those. I don't know. Maybe we should skip and go to Guts next, if you want, so that we are talking about Raina's life, the works that revolve around her life, and then we can go, because I really enjoyed Drama, especially, but Ghost is good too. So all of her books are good.
Yeah, I like Drama. Drama's funny, and I like the character, the main character, Callie. She's funny and interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that eventually. Yeah. At least that's the plan, right? We want to talk about all of her books.
Yeah.
Are there any other comics that you would like to talk about on the show sometime?
I don't know. Not that I know of.
Okay, well, you've been reading comics for a few years now.
I need a new box.
Yeah, no, you need another comic box. And I've been giving you I've been giving you titles out of my collection that I no longer want, that are age appropriate. So there might be some more things that we might get into down the road, if you're willing to, Madison.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Madison, thank you so much for joining me on the show, talking about Raina Telgemeier's Sisters. You introducing me to those books have just brought me a lot of joy. So that's why I wanted to talk to them about them with you, to hopefully convince other people out there who may not have tried these, adults that may, like me, who may not have tried these because they're, like I said, they are marketed more for younger readers, and they're missing out because these are excellent, excellent graphic novels. So All right. Again, thank you very much, Madison. Anything
Yep.
you want to say to the listeners?
No.
Because you just don't care, huh?
Sure.
All right. If you have read any of Raina Telgemeier's works, or you would like to respond to anything that we have talked about here about sisters, you can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments at longboxreview.com, and you can also just send me messages on Twitter as well at longboxreview.
That's a lot of long box review.
Yep. It's my brand. I got to go with it. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.